Hey friends, this is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network, and today we are going to talk all about, Epstein and intelligence connections. Again, this would probably mark, I would say, the fourth video I've done on this topic. But before we get into that, I want to remind you guys to bookmark theconsciousresistance.com to make sure you're getting all of our latest content. You want to subscribe to all of our other alternative media channels and join the text list right here, this blue cloud thought bubble. Join that. Subscribe to our email newsletter right here, and if you want to support our partner, My Brave Botanicals, you can get a free ounce of kratom. Check out their CBD and all that good stuff. So, as I said, we've covered this already in the past. Let's see what pops up when I search intelligence and Epstein on theconsciousresistance.com, which you might want to do if you're looking for this topic. We get a few different things. The mainstream media is finally admitting Epstein's connections, which I covered about a week ago. Then we get some other stuff here, but I've done a few other reports, mainly talking about Les Wexner, asking the question about Jeffrey Epstein and the Mossad, the evidence for Jeffrey Epstein's Mossad connection, new evidence connecting Jeffrey Epstein to Les Wexner. So I've covered some of this information we're about to go over before. However, I have not put it into article form yet. And here you go. Easy to share. This is published on themindunleashed.com just a couple of days ago. People think Epstein was a spy for an intelligence agency, and they might be right. Untangling the web that connects Jeffrey Epstein, the Mafia, and intelligence agencies reveals a deep rabbit hole. And essentially what I'm doing here is, again, summarizing some of the work that I've already done on this channel, but I actually feel like I went even deeper than I probably have on this channel, so I just mainly wanted to do this video. I will give you an overview of what I said in this article, but I want you to actually go read it yourself. I recommend sharing it with your friends because not everything important comes in video format, in case you hadn't realized that quite yet. But so what I'm doing here is making fun of a little bit of the late to the party corporate media for finally asking the questions that independent and alternative media journalists have been asking all along. Where did Jeffrey Epstein's money come from? Is it true he was an intelligent agent of the U.S. or Israeli government? Did any of his famous friends know about his alleged sex rings and trafficking of young girls from his mansions to his island? And I plan to answer these questions in a series of articles about Epstein, his history, and his friends. But first, we're going to start with the claim that he may be an intelligence asset. And of course, this claim was reignited recently when the Daily Beast reported that Alexander Acosta, now recently resigned, former labor secretary, stated that he was told that Epstein was above his pay grade. I was told Epstein was, quote, that Epstein, quote, belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone, Acosta said at the time. So, is there any truth to this rumor? Is there any credible evidence to suspect the involvement of intelligence agencies? Obviously there is. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this video. But let's talk about this. Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell, and the Mossad. So first, the first piece of evidence that I put forward is that the labor secretary who gave Epstein the sweetheart deal, the non-disclosure, non-prosecution agreement back in Palm Beach, Florida, who then was appointed labor secretary by Trump and now has resigned, he was told himself that Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. He said that publicly. So, all right, maybe we should give that a little bit of weight. That's one statement. And it could have been rumor, hearsay. It doesn't, that's not something you can put in court, right? But what else do we got? So Epstein's former girlfriend and secretary, and basically his procurer of girls to satiate his daily need for masturbating in front of young girls, she is currently in the spotlight again as a result of Epstein's recent arrest. And that's because people are asking, well, who is she? What's she about? And once again, the alternative independent media has been talking about this for, years now. She is the one person who is absolutely integral to Epstein's sex ring operation, and she was definitely one of the unnamed co-conspirators that were allowed to go free under the 2008 sweetheart deal. So, her involvement with Epstein is important because of who her father is, Robert Maxwell, who has long been suspected of being an undercover agent working for the Israeli Mossad, the National Intelligence Agency of Israel, also known as Hamasad Lemodi, and I can't pronounce the rest of that, but that's what we call the Mossad. Robert Maxwell was a British media mogul owning a majority share in Israel's second biggest newspaper and heavily invested in Israeli publishing, pharmaceutical, and computer firms. It was reported that Maxwell had, quote, become close with Israeli leaders, particularly in the ruling Likud party, which, for those of you who have ever heard of Christopher Bolin, or some others who point to the Likud party, Benjamin Netanyahu and others, as being really one of the main pushers of the Zionist movement, and helped facilitate the immigration of Jews from the Soviet Union. And in 1991, veteran investigative journalist Seymour Hersh, who is known for doing explosive stories like the My Lai massacre in Vietnam and exposing the torture at Abu Ghraib and other important stories. Really a great journalist, also calling out the lies about the Syrian gas attacks. He released a book called The Samson Option, which reported on a number of different things, including Maxwell's close connections to Israeli intelligence. Hirsch claimed that Nicholas Davies, foreign editor of the Daily Mirror at the time, was involved in selling Israeli weapons to Iran and kidnapping a nuclear technician. Maxwell adamantly denied having any connection to the Mossad and sued Hirsch and his publisher for libel. Hirsch countersued and a court battle began. Maxwell would die shortly afterwards in a yacht incident that some researchers still suspect was a hit job from an unknown party in response to Maxwell's newfound publicity. And basically he fell off his yacht, which was named for his daughter, Jill Zane Maxwell. And again, some people think that he might have been killed. It was, never officially ruled a suicide or an accident. We don't really know. After Maxwell's death, Hirsch said, quote, that he knew much more about him than I wrote. So he knew a lot, and he apparently hasn't revealed all the secrets of what else he knew. Maybe it's not safe yet. His sources are still alive. By August 94, the New York Times reported that Seymour Hersh and his publisher won substantial damages and an apology as a result of the libel suit filed by Robert Maxwell before his death. The Times wrote, in yesterday's proceedings, a lawyer for the Mirror Group, which was controlled by Mr. Maxwell before his death in November 91, said that it acknowledged that Mr. Hersh is an author of excellent reputation and of the highest integrity who would never write anything which he did not believe to be true, and that he was in this instance fully justified in writing what he did, which pretty much admits that what he said was true. And then in 2002, you have the book Robert Maxwell, Israel Super Spy, which was released by researchers Gordon Thomas and Martin Dillon. The book claimed that Maxwell worked as a double agent for the Israeli Mossad and Britain's MI6, and also had connections to organized crime in Eastern Europe. And interestingly, there are Eastern European connections to Epstein as well, because Epstein was one of the girls that supposedly was his sex slave, Nadia Marcinkova, came from somewhere in Eastern Europe, and there have been rumors of children being funneled out of Eastern Europe. I know Belarus is one place, and other places that have been discussed. The authors also wrote that Maxwell had been murdered by the Israeli Mossad because he was apparently threatening to expose Israeli secrets. And of course, this doesn't necessarily and automatically indicate that his daughter Jill Zane was also involved in similar action, related to the Mossad. But based on what we know from testimony of Epstein's victims, Jill Zane was in fact part of the sex ring operation, which reportedly involved filming sexual encounters between young girls and high-profile his high-profile circle. In court documents, the victims described being debriefed by Epstein after performing sexual acts. The victims claim that Epstein wanted to know everything he could about the fetishes and desires of the men. This is reminiscent of the concept of a honeypot, where law enforcement or intelligence agency will set a trap for would-be criminals. And if Epstein is working for an intelligence agency, that would mean this intelligence agency, whoever they are, who maybe he's operating under the direction of Jill Zane, that the reports of sex rings, rape, and trafficking could be an effort to blackmail powerful people in all sectors and industries. Very interesting. So that's Robert Maxwell. Robert Maxwell, his daughter Jill Zane Maxwell, again, the right-hand woman of Epstein, been seen with Epstein, been seen with the Clintons, been around for quite some time, and she's a very important piece of this puzzle, her father being exposed as an Israeli Mossad agent. Could she be? I guess we have to speculate for the moment, but it's another connection. Now, Leslie Wexner, The Limited, Victoria's Secret, and the Mafia, and I think this presents even stronger connections and more evidence to these claims. Who or what is the source of Jeffrey Epstein's wealth and his financial relationship? And is his financial relationship with entrepreneur, philanthropist, and owner of the Limited brands, Leslie Wexner, significant? Of course it is. Over the years, some reporters have examined the Wexner-Epstein connection and found that Wexner may have been Epstein's only financial client, and that they had an intriguing relationship that no one could quite figure out. What we do know for certain is that the two men were close associates at one point in the not-too-distant past, and understanding Leslie Wexner can explain the potential intelligence connections to the Israeli Mossad. So, a little background on Leslie Wexner. Of course, he's the current owner of the Limited brands, which is Victoria's Secret, Limited, and other things. Wexner was born in Dayton, Ohio in 1937, graduated from Ohio State University, borrowed $5,000, and opened his first Limited store in Columbus, Ohio in 1963. Wexner's wealth has been estimated at over $2 billion. He is involved in a number of charitable causes and has even founded his own organizations, the Wexner Foundation and the Wexner Heritage Foundation. By the 1980s, Epstein had joined investment firm Bear Stearns after a stint as a school teacher and was quickly making connections in the New York finance world. Around this time, Leslie Wexner and Jeffrey Epstein became acquainted. By 1995, Wexner gave Epstein his 45,000 square foot, 8-story mansion on East 71st Street in New York City. Some people say he gave it to him for free. Others say he sold it to him for $1. We don't really know. Wexner was considered to be one of the most prominent Jewish philanthropists for his role in rallying support for Jewish philanthropic efforts. One of these efforts includes organizing what was known as the study group, but more commonly as the mega group. And I've talked about this. I was probably one of the first people to talk about this back earlier in this year. Not the first. I'm sure others are out there, but I definitely know I was one of the first prominent channels to start talking about this aspect of this. The mega group was called by the Wall Street Journal in 1998, quote, a group of elite Jewish philanthropists that was, quote, formed in 1991 and developed as an effort to conduct a high-minded philanthropic discussion about the pressing issues of the Jewish people. The group motivated a number of individual and collaborative philanthropic initiatives that arguably would not have otherwise occurred, including the Partnership for Excellence in Jewish Education. So Wexner is involved in Jewish philanthropy because he's a Jewish man, so that kind of makes sense, right? But they describe the mega group as this group of elite Jewish philanthropists who are meeting together and planning philanthropy. But also we know, based on past information, that NGOs, nonprofits, and sometimes philanthropic efforts can be sort of covert ways to fund programs and ideas and projects and goals that we want, or that the elite want. The group was founded by Wexner and Charles Bronfman of the Seagram Company. Other prominent members and attendees include director Steven Spielberg, former hedge fund manager Michael Steinhardt, and Seagram chairman Edgar Bronfman Sr. The mega group met twice a year for 2-day seminars to talk about philanthropy and Jewishness. Coincidentally, members of the Bronfman family have recently been found guilty of participating in the NXIVM sex cult. The group has been described as a, quote, loosely organized club of 20 of the nation's wealthiest and most influential Jewish businessmen. And apparently the group no longer exists, but many of the original members have gone on to create new groups and have continued to work on the same issues they once planned in the group. Now, Wexner's connection, so obviously him being a Jew, I know some people are like, wait, this is anti-Semitic. He's just Jewish, and you're talking about his Jewish philanthropy, so that means he's an Israeli Mossad agent? No. Let me continue. Wexner's ties to Israel and Mossad were further exposed in 2003 after a document entitled Wexner Analysis Israeli Communications Priorities 2003 was leaked. This document outlined a public relations campaign promoting the Iraq war invasion, demonizing Saddam Hussein, and encouraging an alignment of U.S. foreign policy interests with the foreign policy interests of Israel. The document was funded by the Wexner Foundation and produced by the public relations firm, the Luntz Research Companies, and the Israel Project. The essential conclusions section of the report offers 10 recommendations, including, quote, you should be invoking the name of Saddam Hussein and how Israel was always behind American efforts to rid the world of this ruthless dictator and liberate the people. The Columbus Free Press previously reported that, quote, lobbying groups like Mega Group and government insiders like Wolfowitz and Richard Pearl are engaged in a systematic campaign to identify Israeli national security interests with U.S. military and security interests. The Wexner analysis merely documents this extensive, often covert campaign that deserves public debate and democratic discourse, not secret PR campaigns. Wexner's support for Israeli causes was so great that President George W. Bush invited him to Israel in 2008 to celebrate the 60th anniversary of that nation. And in addition to suspected intelligence connections, which these might actually kind of be the same, Jeffrey Epstein's only client was suspected of ties to the Mafia crime families in Ohio. Now, this gets to some serious stuff, because the government is just one gang. The Mafia is a whole different gang, operates under different rules. So this started with, and this is kind of an interesting story, there were ties to the mob revolve around the death of a well-known Columbus attorney named Arthur Shapiro, who was reportedly killed in a, quote, mob-style murder in 1995. Shapiro was shot multiple times, including 2 bullets in the head. The attorney had served with Columbus law firm Schwartz, Shapiro, Kem, and Warren, and represented corporations like Leslie Wexner's The Limited Brands. So this lawyer for this attorney's firm in Columbus had represented Leslie Wexner's company, The Limited Brands, and Shapiro reportedly managed The Limited Brands account directly. And he was murdered in a mob-style murder in 1995. After his death, an investigation was ordered and a report was produced. This report, the Shapiro Homicide Investigation, Analysis, and Hypothesis, was apparently hidden from the public and destroyed by former Columbus Chief of Police James G. Jackson. The Columbus Free Press reports that the Columbus Police Department's Organized Crime Bureau began researching and writing the report in early 1991. By June 1991, Chief James Jackson ordered the public record of the report to be destroyed. And of course, this is the report that detailed connections to the Mafia by some of these individuals. So apparent this, but it was hidden. It was hidden from the public and destroyed by chief of police. So by June 1991, Chief James Jackson ordered the public record of the report to be destroyed. Chief Jackson stated that he destroyed the report because it contained half-baked theories that implicated prominent people and could expose the city to, quote, possibly billions of dollars in damages if the document does ever become public. However, a copy of the report was saved and shared with the local media. The report says that Leslie Wexner was connected with, quote, associates reputed to be organized crime figures. This so-called Shapiro report relied on information from the Columbus Police Intelligence Summaries, reports from the Organized Crime Bureau, information from the Pennsylvania Crime Commission and the New Jersey Crime Commission, news reports, and intelligence data from Maglo-Clin, a law enforcement database that gathers reports on organized crime. The report also discovered, quote, unusual interactive relations between the following business organizations, including the Major Chord Jazz Club, the Limited, Walsh Trucking Company, the renamed Schwartz, Kelm, Warren, and Rubenstein Law Firm, an oil company, and just on and on. Basically, they find connections between the Mafia crime figures to Wexner and unusual interactive relations between the following business organizations. So there was some kind of money being shuffled around. And one of these people, two of these people, DeBartolo and Walsh, who were involved in some of this, they're the Walsh Trucking Company, Edward DeBartolo Company. They had previously been identified as associates of the Genovese La Rocca crime family in Pittsburgh. The report states, quote, from the predicate facts presented, it appears that Les Wexner had established contacts with associates reputed to be organized crime figures, one of whom was a major investment partner and another who was using the Limited headquarters as a mailing address. It is not known whether there are other figures among Wexner's associates. It can be hypothesized that the Genovese La Rocca crime families might consider Wexner a friend. And interestingly, before Shapiro was executed, he was involved in an investigation by the IRS after failing to file income tax returns for 7 years. His murder took place one day before he was scheduled to appear in front of a grand jury for the IRS investigations. And there were allegations that he was killed because he may have revealed information about certain parties, and one of those parties may have been Leslie Wexner and or his mafia partners. And this is just scratching the surface, guys. So this is Leslie Wexner with a clear connection to Israel and Israeli intelligence agencies, at least like using his nonprofits and his philanthropy to push an Israeli first message, and also potential connections to crime families in the Midwest. And of course, we know he runs Limited Brand and Victoria's Secret, and they have modeling agencies, and they are able to recruit women that way. And then we have Ghislaine Maxwell, who's Epstein's right-hand woman, her father being implicated and connected to the Israeli Mossad. So, no matter how you slice it, either Epstein's right-hand girl, the one who was helping him get women, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Epstein's buddy who helped him get his New York mansion and apparently was his only client, both have pretty strong connections to Israel and to the Mossad. So, I think that we are proving that there is this. If we haven't proven it already, hopefully this article lays it out for you even more clearly. So, for those who read and not watch, send them this article and get it out there, guys. Thank you so much for your support. Leave your comments below, likes, shares, hate mail. Until next time, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, you are free. Peace.